Alrighty, everybody. It is currently Friday, February 6th, 2025, and I'm coming at you live from the pit of Moloch, which is actually pretty chill. So, how about you guys stop being so anti-Semitic, uh, watch your bread and circuses, and let me and my boys chill at the pit of Moloch. Alright? Just let us chill here. You crack open a beer, we crack open a baby. We're not so different, you and I. All right? No, I'm not at the pit of Moloch. If I was, I would probably be successful. I was gonna say I'd be more successful, but I'm not successful at all. Primarily due to my my lack of talent. I would say that's the main thing preventing me from becoming successful. But yeah, we're not going to talk about all that stuff to start off with. I'll eventually start talking about it when I run out of complete bullshit to talk about. But I wanted to start off by talking about a movie that I saw just a couple hours ago called The Lobster. You might have seen this one around. It is a movie with Colin Farrell and John C. Riley. It's one of the funniest movies I've seen um, as of late. It's pretty hilarious. It's one of those. It's like a dark comedy or whatever, where everyone's like completely deadpan and stuff. Which I I usually watch that type of shit, and I'm like, okay. I mean, what do I? No, I want to see a guy get kicked in the balls as hard as possible. Although this does have some of that, dude, and that's what made this movie so funny. Because usually when I see some shit like that, I'm like, it, people who usually do that sort of stuff aren't funny, and so they have to like make their attempt at being funny into like some sort of art or whatever. But I would consider this one both. I would say it was funny, but it also had some artfulness. Yeah. But anyway, it's a pretty good movie. Um, John C. Riley, the spoiler alert, John C. Riley can't stop jerking off, and so he gets his hand burnt in a toaster. That was probably um Colin Farrell kicks a kid for no reason, which is pretty funny, but John C. Riley not being able to stop jerking off and then getting his hand burnt in a toaster is also pretty funny. And you're probably wondering why John C. Riley gets his hands. And I don't mean like they put his hand in there like a piece of toast, you know what I mean? Like they're ready to spread some strawberry jam on it or whatever. They like shove his hand down in there and like turn the toaster on. Um, but basically, the premise of the movie is Colin Farrell gets like divorced from his wife or whatever, and uh, the whole setup is that he lives in a society. We live in a society, but he he lives in this society, um, where you're not allowed to be single, and if you do, uh, if you are single or you like, even if your spouse dies or whatever it is, you get sent to this hotel, and at this hotel, there's also a bunch of single people there. And if you don't meet someone there within 45 days, then you get turned into an animal of your choice, which it's been far more than 45 days for me. So, you know what I mean? If this situation became reality, I'd say just make me the animal right now. Let's call a spade a spade. I've had 22 years to figure it out. I'm not going to figure it out in 45 days. Just turn me into a fucking platypus or whatever. But it's called The Lobster because Colin Farrell wants to be turned into a lobster. I'm sure there's some symbolism there, but I'm pretty retarded with the way I watch movies. I was just like, yo, that chick shot a fucking donkey. That's fucking. Why'd she do that? That's typically how I watch movies. Like, Colin Farrell just kicked that little girl, dude. Pretty fucking funny. um, but yeah, I'm sure there's some sort of symbolism there. But the movie, as much as I do want to shit on it for being like dark comedy or whatever, like just pure deadpan, like no one smiles. There's no emotion throughout the entire movie, which it, it does it does take a second for it to get funny because you kind of have to get used to the whole deadpan thing because you know what I mean. I'm a simple-minded bread and circus type of guy. That's the type of guy I am. You know what I mean? Like people shit on Big Bang Theory for having a laugh track. I'm like, the laugh track is the only way I know how to laugh, right? I can only laugh if there's a laugh track there. Um, but yeah, this movie's like it's complete. Everyone's deadpan the whole time, so you kind of have to be like, is that? Are they being like? What's going on here? But deadpan or not, John C. Riley getting his hand burnt in a toaster because he can't stop jerking off is is always funny, and that leads to the next, what I would consider the next funniest part of the movie, which is they're not allowed to jerk off. Clearly, John C. Riley, he has a lisp and he can't say his R's, which is pretty. That in and of itself is pretty funny. I don't know, people with disabilities, I find to be hilarious, and I include Fat in that. So don't worry, Fats, you're not excluded from this. But yeah. So he has a lisp and stuff, and he gets caught jerking off to a picture of a lady on a horse, which, I mean, that has a lot of implications in that movie, in this movie, in the universe of this movie, because that horse at one point could have been a dude, which I guess brings into question. It's like, what animal would you become? And here's my choice. I would choose to become a golden retriever, and here's why. Because I'd still be able to fuck white women. All right, white women are always fucking dogs. I don't know what it is, but they just can't. They love the canines, dude. They can't keep their paws off them. You know what I mean? They can't. They love feeling their paws on them, and they can't keep their paws off them. So that's what I would become. But anyway, he gets caught jerking off, and you're not allowed. You're only allowed to come like at all if you're doing it with your like partner that you've partnered up with or whatever. And but to keep everyone like, to keep all the dudes aggro at least, they do this thing where the maids come into the room and the dudes take off their pants, still got underwear on, and they take off their pants, and the maid like pulls up her dress and they just grind like through the clothes, dry grinding until the dude is like on the precipice of coming, and then they just sent him out there to go find a partner. That I would get. That might be the funniest part of the movie is just the constant, or not constant stream. I don't know. I don't remember how many times they show it, but they show it more than once. I do remember that they show the dry grinding more than once, which is it's pretty funny to imagine like just every guy walking around with blue balls all day. I think it's to make him more aggro. I think that's what it is. Because, right, obviously when you're a dude and you don't jizz, you get a little bit more, you know what I mean, of that in you. But I mean, walking around with blue balls all day. Like in the movie, Colin Farrell already has like severe back pain or whatever. But that plus blue balls, that's worse than getting shot. And I don't care what anyone says, dude, but I've experienced both. And I can say that back pain plus blue balls to me, I would rather take a bullet to maybe not like my knee, but like just above my knee. You know what I mean? Not to where it hits the femoral artery or whatever it's called, but right up there. I'd rather take a bullet there than walk around with blue balls and a sore back for 45 days straight. Um, but yeah, it's there's a lot of dry humping in this movie, and because they're all so deadpan, it's very funny the way they talk to each other. It's like the original Love on the Spectrum. Like they only communicate through like fun facts or whatever. Right? Like this guy gets paired up with this lady, um, or he like pairs up with her. You don't get paired up. You choose your pairing or whatever, and then they give the him and the lady a kid or whatever. And anyway, they're just having like a dinner table conversation, and he's just talking about like the weight of basketballs or whatever. And it's like, you could watch The Lobster, or you could watch Love on the Spectrum. Like they're virtually the same in my personal opinion. Equally as entertaining, equally as funny, and I mean it's the exact same plot in both things. It's like these two people who pair up based on completely like superficial, nonsensical similarities that they have with each other. Right? That's what Love on the Spectrum is. It's like, dude, we both fuck with the Lion King. I'm gonna get down on one knee right now, and that's what the Lobster is. But like the overall message of the movie that I got from it was a very dumb message. I'm sure there's like some like deeper thing that I'm missing about the whole thing, but uh no, I'm not even gonna say what I thought out loud, dude. It was so gay. It's been a gay week for me. All right, it's been a very gay week for me. I watched Chernobyl, and Chernobyl opens with the guy who like did the investigation or whatever talking about lies, and I was like, oh, that's so deep. It's just like the Epstein thing that's going on right now, and so I almost started off the episode by like giving his monologue. I was like, no, dude, I would rather have a dick and balls in my mouth at the same time, on camera, uncensored, full face, dude. No ski mask. I'm not an ICE agent. No ski mask. Full dick and balls in my mouth. Then do that. Um, yeah, been a very, very gay week for me in that sense. You know what I mean? Watching art movies like that, which, like I said, I didn't get the point of it. It was very entertaining. I was like trying to figure out the whole point of it, but then I was like, fuck, it's just something sweet for the kids. All right, we ain't got to figure it out. It's just something sweet for the fucking kids. All right. But instead of being something sweet for the kids, it's something esoteric for the film nerds out there. Which I hate the word film. I think I've talked about this before. It's called a movie. All right, can we just call it a movie? Calling it a film sounds just as dumb as calling it a movie. Film is like a layer of something. All right, so a film, movie, cinema pisses me off even more. You know what I mean? If you say that around me, it unlocks a blood memory in me, and I'm prepared to go full chimp, dude. I'm ready to rip off your genitals if you say the word cinema around me. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much all I did this week. Slept a whole lot, dude. It was a good week of sleeping for me. You know what I mean? I've been starving myself a lot lately, um, but I still got some pretty good sleep this week. Few naps in there, quality naps too. You know what I mean? Just fall asleep for like 5 seconds and then wake up. Talked about it before. That's the ideal nap. If you're napping, you don't want to be asleep for more than 5 minutes. You know, because that's how you get like the grogginess and all that stuff. You just want like a quick snap. You just want your brain to turn off for 1 second and then turn right back on again, dude. Maybe we are computers, you know? A lot of people out there with a lot of ideas, people that think we're aliens or whatever, people that think we're living in a simulation. What if we are the simulation? You ever think about that? Yeah, like I said, very gay week for me. Very gay week for me. Philosophy is gay. I don't care what anyone says. Philosophy is, besides like the bare bone essentials of philosophy, you know what I mean? Like Aristotle, um, Socrates, those types of guys. I would even consider Plato to be pretty gay. Like Plato's whole thing was he wrote, I forget what they were called. They were called like apologies or something like that. But he basically just like made up people in his head and then was like, what would this person think about that? And it's just like, all right, dude, we don't need to get that deep into it. Aristotle and Socrates already kind of figured the whole thing out for us. You know what I mean? Like the bare bones of philosophy, that's all right. But when we start getting into, like I said, even Plato, God forbid Nietzsche, you know what I mean? Like these new school, and I'm talking about like moral life philosophy, economic philosophy or whatever, is retarded, but it's not gay. You know what I mean? It's retarded, but it's not gay. But yeah, like modern moral philosophy is I would consider that all to be pretty gay. Like anything, like we figured that shit out pretty quickly. I think, you know what I mean? It's not like going to the moon or whatever, where we have to wait for shit to develop slowly over the course of thousands of years or whatever. It all seems pretty basic to me. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I don't know. The other thing that happened this week is obviously the Epstein files. And yeah, the only I don't really want to talk about the files as much as people's reaction to it, which the obvious reaction in this state of America that we live in this time, this age that we live in, is to immediately make it into a political thing. about being like, oh, it was all right-leaning people, or oh, it was all left-leaning people, or it didn't have this, or it didn't have that, or whatever, whatever the whole thing is. Um, and yeah, it, it's very annoying to see that, because here's the whole thing about every single issue that exists in our country is that someone's gonna have to be the bigger man about it. Someone, the right, left, whatever, someone's gonna have to be the bigger man. Across every single issue, someone's gonna have to be the bigger man, right? Like this whole thing between like men and women that's kind of going on, probably mostly going on the internet, but still, that's kind of what our lives have become. Someone's just gonna have to be the bigger man and be like, fuck, I don't. Our country is run by baby eating pedophiles. So I'm just gonna, yeah, all right, whatever. All men are pigs, or all incels just want to murder women. Whatever you fucking think. You know what I mean? Yeah, sure. Let's let everyone into our country and do whatever they want when they're here because of empathy or whatever. Right? Let's just do that. Or on the flip side, yeah, let's just gun everyone down at the border. Let's just do that. Right? Like that's someone is gonna have to capitulate here and be like, you're right. Okay, you know what I mean? It's like when you get in a fight with your wife or girlfriend or whatever, and you're like going to your parents' house. You just have to be like, okay, babe, you're right. Can we just get in the fucking car so we can go to my parents' house? It's what's gonna have to go on here. You know what I mean? Um, and probably honestly, the men are gonna have to be the one to do it. Don't want to. Hey, men are all pigs. Got it. 100%. Men are all pigs. Because let's be honest here, it's not gonna be the chicks to do it. I mean, chicks are great for a lot of things. They do a lot of great things. Great at raising children, all that stuff. Certain jobs women are great at. Not great at just putting some shit behind them. You know what I mean? I'd say generally men are better at that. So it's gonna have to be the men who are like, all right, yeah, I got it. Can we, instead of focusing on, you know what I mean, holding open doors or giving up seats on the subway or whatever, can we now, instead of doing that, can we focus on the fact that our government is now, for a fact, um, being run by baby eating pedophiles? Can we maybe stop talking about 50-50 relationships or ICE raids or whatever, and instead focus on the child sacrificing Satanists who control every single aspect of our life? Could we maybe, hey, we'll figure that out later. Can we just focus on this right now? And I know what people are going to say. People are going to be like, well, two issues can exist at the same time. And I agree, right? Two issues can exist at the same time. But it's kind of a thing of like, if your house is on fire, are you really going to argue with your wife about what color you should paint the bathroom, right? Because that's essentially the situation that we're in. The situation that we're in is you've been arguing for a while about what color grouting you should get in the bathroom, right? And you want to get black grouting because you don't want to clean it or whatever, but your wife wants to get white grouting because it'll look better with the checkerboard tiles or whatever. And that argument's been going on for a while. And then an illegal immigrant breaks into your house and decides to burn it to the ground. Or a schizophrenic fentanyl addict or whatever decides to burn your house to the ground. Are you going to keep arguing about the color of the goddamn grouting? Or are you going to call the fire department, grab your kids, and get out of the burning house? Like, which one are we going to do? Are you just going to say, okay, babe, sure, let's make the grouting white. Fine, I'll fucking clean it. It'll become black later anyway. Who gives a shit? I'll clean the grouting. Which one are we going to do? That's kind of the big thing that I got out of all that. Because from a concerningly young age, I've kind of not trusted the government. And from a concerningly young age, I've understood the fact that they're all gigantic pieces of shit who cannot be trusted to act in the best interest of the American people. So I'm kind of over all that, right? When all that came out, I was like, yeah, dude, I've been listening to conspiracy theory podcasts since I was 16 years old. It, yeah, we knew. Right? So I'm kind of over all that, and I'm more so interested, you know what I mean, in the relationship between the morons who inhabit our country. It's more so what I'm interested in. And look, dude, I'm one of those morons too. I'm not getting a gun and going to, fucking Congress or whatever, being like, arrest these people. I'm not doing it. But shit, someone's gonna have to. Someone who's not a schizophrenic who's immediately gonna lose their mind and kill everybody. You know what I mean? Someone, someone's gonna have to do something. And someone's gonna have to be the first to be like, you're right, and just put whatever it is behind you. Yeah, no one's illegal on stolen land. Okay, can we go try to hold the baby killing Satanist pedophiles accountable for a second? Can we go try to do that for a second? Yeah, sure. Let them bash the kid's head in with a rock. I don't care. You know what I mean? Don't deport him. Doesn't make any difference to me. It won't. It will not. That won't be an issue, right? It just won't be an issue anymore if we continue to allow these people to run our lives and ruin our lives, right? Like that's kind of the ultimate conclusion that I came to about that whole situation. Yeah, they were eating babies, dude. I knew the whole time. Frazzle drip. Do you guys even know about frazzle drip? Hillary Clinton cut off a baby's face and wore it. You know what I mean? They found it in Anthony Weiner's laptop. All the cops got killed after they saw it. Yeah, guys, we knew that. We knew this, dude. We knew that they were eating baby pancreases and shit. Stop making it an issue about abortion, because here's the thing about abortion. The people who decide abortion are killing and eating babies. So it doesn't really matter what everyone else's opinion about abortion is, because the people who are actually making the decisions as to whether or not it will be legal or whatever are currently knee deep in a pile of dead children worshiping an owl statue that's inhabited with the spirit of Satan. So right? So I'd say stop trying to convince your retarded uncle that you should be able to have an abortion at 9 months. Stop trying to do that, and instead say, yeah, you're right, man. We should be able to marry 15-year-old girls because Mary was 15 years old in the Bible or whatever. Sure, man. Right? And instead, focus on the people who are going to be able to determine whether that's legal or not, who are currently doing something that Cormac McCarthy would not be able to describe with 300 pages of gore and violence, right? Let's focus on those people. So that's kind of my whole, yeah, just what I got from that, is that it worked. They won, dude. The baby eating Satanists won. Because it came out that they were baby eating Satanists and nothing happened. Nothing happened after they found out that they were putting straws in babies' heads like a fucking coconut and slurping the brains out. Nothing happened. People went right back to arguing about Billie Eilish's speech at the fucking Grammys or whatever. And yeah, did she say something retarded? Sure, she did. But she's also a baby-eating pedophile, right? You think she became famous when she was that young? She became famous instantly because of her talent or whatever. There's a fucking 5-year-old black kid playing bucket drums right now in New Orleans with 30 times the talent that Billie Eilish has. And look, Billie Eilish has some bangers. I will say she does have a few bangers. That she didn't become famous because of her talent. She became famous because of the nefarious connections that her family has. That's why she became famous. Okay, so how about let's stop focusing on the speech and start focusing on the fact that she was probably like a victim of some sort of satanic ritual when she was a child. Let's focus more on that. Let's look at the bigger picture here. And instead of having some retarded lawsuit about getting her evicted from her house because it's technically on stolen land or whatever, like she said, instead of focusing on that, let's try to find the videotape of her being blindfolded while a bunch of dudes with deer masks danced around her. Let's try to find that. Okay, can we do that? Can we do that? Yeah, it's just very frustrating and annoying that yeah, people will just politicize anything. Right? They will. Um, and they're both equally guilty of it. The right's equally guilty of it, and the left is equally guilty of it. Um, and so yeah, pretty fun time we're having in America here, right? And it's happening all over the Western world, right? Because the entire Western world is now confirmed to be run by satanic. But it's kind of seeming like China's the good guys, dude. I've always hated communism and all that shit, but it might be time to get a little Chinese on them. Nick Mullen might have been right. Might be the year of the fucking dragon. All right, we might have to accept China into our hearts. Maybe China is the answer, dude. In China, they're probably smiling from ear to ear right now because they've gotten in. I'd say China's got a pretty they've got a pretty easy opportunity to destroy this country. Maybe not militarily, but socially and culturally. China's got a it's pretty easy for them to do that right now. I'd say, you know what I mean. When it comes out that the president and all the presidents for the past 40 years have eaten children like they're fucking baby back ribs at Chili's, right? When that comes out and people are still arguing about the speech of a 20-year-old at an award ceremony um, where everyone present has eaten a child, right? when that's when that becomes the issue after all that, I think China's smiling from ear to ear right now. Very, very nice. It's exactly what they want, and it's exactly what our government wants. You know what I mean? You know, because ultimately we're kind of the linear version of the English in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? The American Empire is kind of the descendant of the British Empire. And when the British colonized a place, and this is why they were the best colonists that are on Earth, when the British colonized a place, they didn't try to kill everybody. They didn't try to do that. You know, as much as people want to talk about the genocide of this group or that group or whatever, they mostly relied on disease to take care of that for them, to diminish the population to a point where it couldn't fight back. And, you know what I mean? Since we're drawing parallels, the American government has allowed the disease of political divisiveness and social media to take the place of smallpox in that situation. And so when the British colonized a place, they would just put two tribes that had been historically warring together in the same area and let them fight each other while they took all the gold and, you know, rubber and diamonds and spices and whatever they were after. It's how the British operated. It's how they colonized places, you know. And yeah, they were probably baby eating pedophiles as well. Definitely were. 100% were baby eating pedophiles. So, I mean, it's the same thing as going on here. The baby eating pedophiles are just being like, let these two groups of savages fight each other while we become incredibly rich and continue to eat babies and have sex with children. That's it's the same thing that's been going on for about 1,000 years. I don't know. It's been going on for a while. The people have been eating the the reptilians that control us all have been eating babies for a while. And obviously they're not literal reptilians, but they are reptilians in a lot of ways, dude. A lot of ways they're reptilians. But yeah, that's Epstein. He's still alive in Tel Aviv, dude. Epstein's still having a great old time in Tel Aviv. Still chilling out there, dude. And you gotta give it to him. Like I said, you gotta give it to him. They won. A lot of people can't admit defeat. I'm pretty quick to admit defeat, dude. I hate getting my ass beat. If someone punches me in the face one time, I'll be like, all right, dude, you did it. You kicked my ass. I don't need a bruise. I don't need a black eye. I don't need, you know, blood drawn or broken teeth or anything. You won. They did it. They won. You know, you gotta hand it to them. You gotta hand it to them. They didn't win because, you know, because they're the best or whatever. They won because we're the worst. And that's what really pisses me off, dude. It's like football. If you play football and you get beat by a good team, then you get beat by a good team. But if you get beat by yourself, that's the really annoying thing. That's the thing that really, really pisses you off. And we're getting beat by ourselves because no one wants to actually be nice to each other, right? Like the left's whole thing is that just show common decency or whatever. That's their whole thing. And then they'll threaten to burn someone's house down because they were 14 and said guacamole nigga penis or whatever, right? Like that's kind of the left's whole thing. But and then the right doesn't even feign empathy, and you really have to have a lot of once again, you got to be like, fuck it, dude. You became the president while saying, yeah, we're gonna execute everyone who doesn't immediately show us their birth certificate. You have to give them credit for that. They still somehow beat you. Right? The Trump beat Kamala while going on a campaign of terror across the U.S. You know what I mean? A pretty beautiful thing. Although, like I've said before, I'm pretty sure all those elections are fake and shit. You know what I mean? Even if the candidate themselves doesn't know it's fake, it is fake. Like that's kind of my whole thing when people are like, "Oh, well, the secret would have gotten out by now," and it's like not everyone knows they're participating in that bullshit. You know what I mean? Like there are people who bought into fuck. What was that guy's name? He was a really famous fucking scammer. What was his name? It was the Enron guy, I think. Whatever his fucking name. I'm gonna Google it. I know his name. It's on the tip of my tongue. But there were people who like worked for him in a not insignificant way that didn't know they were getting scammed. Maybe it's not Enron. It was some sort of famous pyramid scam. Barry something starts with a B. I'm sure it's a Jewish last name as well. I mean, look, could we be honest here? I'm sure it's a Jewish last name, but not everyone knows they're participating in a lie or a conspiracy or something like that. You know what I mean? It's like an abusive relationship. Some people just don't realize it. They don't have the wherewithal for it or whatever to just understand what's fully going on and understand the sickness of it all. The sickness. Yeah, that's what happened this week. Watched The Lobster. I'm trying to think. I was thinking it's been an Australian week for me because the main episode we're doing is going to be about Australia, but I watched some Australian thing this week as well. It was probably pretty retarded and pretty hilarious, but I forget what it is. I don't know. The Lobster was the main thing to focus on, dude. Hilarious movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. And I'd say just go in with the mindset that like everything is a joke. It doesn't have to be all funny. I don't think it was, entirely funny. It wasn't the funniest movie I've ever seen, but Colin Farrell watching a chick pretend to choke to death on an olive is pretty funny. Him kicking a little girl, pretty fucking funny. Donkey getting shot in the head. That's like the first scene in the movie is a donkey getting shot in the head. And you have to, right, because all animals are people, or yeah, they used to be people, you have to assume that donkey was like someone's ex-husband or ex-wife or whatever. But I did see an animal death, or I don't know if it was an animal death this week that was very frustrating to me because I'm recording this at my parents because my fucking bitch ass roommate is back, even though he's still with his girlfriend. Like he sleeps at his girlfriend's place every night, but he goes back at midnight. And if I tried to record a pod past midnight, it would be even more retarded and nonsensical than it already is. But so I was driving home to my parents to record this, and I also had to pick some shit up. And when I was driving there, it was night, you know what I mean? It's Kansas in the wintertime during daylight savings or whatever, so it's night at 2:30 p.m. It's night the second, you know what I mean? Kids get out of class, high school kids get out of class. But the person that was driving in front of me hit a possum. And the possum did like a fucking double, some Simone Biles type shit, you know what I mean? This was Simone Possum. Did some crazy ass shit in the air and walked it off. So I'm hoping that possum is all right. But yeah, it just pissed me off because the possum was like, this person clearly was not paying attention to the road or wanted to kill that possum. You know what I mean? Because that thing did like a back double handspring almost in front of my car, and I was still able to swerve and avoid it, and it walked off fine. Um, but yeah, that was pretty. I was just like, you couldn't avoid it. It's a pretty big animal, dude. Its fucking eyes are the size of a fucking cup or whatever, and they're bright as hell. You couldn't avoid that. I think that person went in for the kill on the possum on purpose, dude. I think they killed that pea on purpose. Um, but yeah, that happened when I was driving home, and then I almost got hit by a train, or not almost got hit by a train, but I was crossing some railroad tracks, and fucking the second the thing starts beeping, where it's like ding, 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 and the lights start flashing, you know what I mean, at a railroad crossing, the second that starts happening, the arm goes down. And that to me is like the ultimate panic because when that arm starts going down, I'm like, oh, death is imminent at this point. You know what I mean? When the arm goes down. But no, it just starts going down as soon as it starts dinging. The train was probably like a mile away from me. And that's something we gotta fix, dude. As soon as we're done killing all the baby eating pedophiles, let's hop on the train thing. You know what I mean? Let's skip over abortion and illegal immigration and, whatever else is a problem. Skip over all that shit. You know, drag queen story hour. I don't know if that's big anymore. It was for a while, but let's skip over all that shit. And instead focus on the train situation. I think that thing should ding for 10 seconds. I think it should ding for 10 seconds before the arm starts going down. Because I was like, oh, this is it, dude. This is it. No one's going to get their shit. The two people who listen to this aren't going to get their shitty podcast this week. Fuck. That was the first thought that entered my mind. Because I always got you boys on my mind. All right? Yeah, that was all that happened to me this week. But we got a fair amount of stuff in the news. We were talking about Epstein, so we'll start with our most, I guess, topical one. I don't know if this one has anything to do with Epstein, but it's some Epstein type shit. Oh my fucking god. No. You have to subscribe to BBC News now? This is so fucking gay. Alright. I'll try to find another article about this real quick. Fuck it, I'm just gonna turn this on and turn this off. Alright, so this is the first article we have here. This one's from AP News, which it always pisses me off whenever like publicly funded news like the BBC or like anything that's publicly funded is then put behind a paywall. It's like Sesame Street or whatever. Like that shit's paid for by the government. Why is it now being put behind a paywall, dude? That's why I wasn't mad when Trump shut down PBS or whatever he did. You know what I mean? Stop giving the kids Big Bird. I wasn't pissed about it at all because I was like, those motherfuckers are making money on the side, making a whole lot of money on the side. It really pissed me off. It's like, right? Because it's like, why are we still paying for it if it's behind the HBO Max paywall? Really? And it's on HBO Max too, right? It's like, how many people are subscribing to HBO Max just to watch Sesame Street? Like, I feel like HBO is more so adult programming. Like, even the streaming service is mostly adult type of stuff, right? So that really pissed me off about PBS, dude. I was really pissed off at Sesame Street there for a while. But anyway, this is from AP News. And this is actor Timothy Busfield, indicted in New Mexico on 4 counts of sexual contact with a child. And I said this might not be some Epstein type shit, but like I said, I've been down the Epstein rabbit hole, not as deep as some, but definitely deeper than others. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know about Epstein is he had this ranch in New Mexico. He had like this big old ranch, and it was just like the inland version of Little St. James. You know what I mean? But it was in New Mexico, so it would be Little St. Jose. Little St. Juan? Is Jose? Because it's Jose Alonso. That's the full name, and so I guess that's Joseph, and then Jose is Joe. Yeah, so it would be Little St. Jose. And this was It was just as big as the island. I do think it was a little bit more chill than the island. I think the island just was for baby sacrifice and all that stuff. Like I'm sure at the ranch Epstein had like a laminated sign up that he printed at the library that said no child eating here. um, take off your shoes and we don't eat children in this house. You know what I mean? That's for the island. But it did have a lot of prominent figures there. I think like Queen Elizabeth, the one who died a few years ago, however long ago that was, she was at the cabin. There's like this famous look. If you're on like right wing conspiracy Instagram reels, then you've probably seen this picture. Um, but yeah, it's her at the cabin, like I don't know, in the 80s or 90s or whatever, and she was probably 80 or 90 when the picture was taken. That bitch was old as fuck. Um, but, uh, and then they like cross-examined it with uh like modern pictures of the cabin, and they found out that it was like the exact same cabin. So she was definitely there. So yeah, the queen was there. Probably a whole lot of other people as well. But I don't know if this relates to that at all. New Mexico is kind of it it's like the rest of the Southwest. You know what I mean? Like the true Southwest. I wouldn't consider LA to be part of the Southwest. Really the only thing they have in common is a ton of Mexicans, and it's like that's just like the rest of the country at this point. Like I said, a big fan of the Mexicans, but a lot of Mexicans in this country. whole lot of the boys, whole lot of Jose's in this country. Whole lot of Marias, whole lot of Jose's. Uh and Jesus's in this country. And so that's really the only thing LA has in common with the rest of the Southwest and their general lawlessness that exists there. Yeah, the Southwest is a pretty, even like Arizona, it is pretty lawless. Yeah, I guess New Mexico is no exception. So this is from Santa Fe. It's where the boy was hanging out. God. And this guy was an actor or some shit, it said. Which, I mean, if you're an actor, how do you end up in Santa Fe? Like, if you're an actor and you end up in, like, Chicago, right? Or you end up in, like, a cabin in the middle of nowhere, that's one thing. But ending up in Santa Fe, it's like you still want to live in a city, but you choose. I wouldn't say a bottom 10 city. I've never been to Santa Fe, but just knowing New Mexico and knowing what I know about it, because there's a lot of reservations down there. Just anywhere where there's a lot of Indian reservations is usually going to be pretty shitty. Not because Indians are super shitty. I'm talking about Native Americans here. Obviously, Indians from the country of India are super shitty. They love shit. But wherever there's a ton of Indian reservations is usually going to be pretty shitty because when the American government was moving them all, they were like, just put them in the shittiest place, right? And they did that for a couple reasons. For one, they couldn't do anything about it. Obviously, they weren't even considered people. That they weren't even considered people until like the 20s. Like natives weren't considered people until the 20s, which is fucking crazy. I think even blacks were considered people at that point, which I don't know. I don't know like how the tier system of racism worked back then, but yeah, native people weren't considered people until the 20s. Or maybe it was just American citizens. Maybe they were considered people, but they weren't American citizens until the 20s or whatever. And yeah, they put them there because they couldn't do anything about it, but also so that the land didn't get taken from them. They did it mostly, about 95%, because it was just the shittiest land they could find, and they were like, fuck these people, they can't do anything if we put them there. But part of the reason was because no one wanted it, so there would be no, fights over it or whatever. And they weren't really probably particularly worried about the natives losing their land and then being homeless. They probably didn't give a shit about that. It was more so a thing of not wanting, violence to break out and then they have to step in. It's probably more so that than anything, but yeah, so wherever there's a ton of reservations, it's gonna be shitty. That's the point of all this. So West Wing and Field of Dreams actor Timothy Busfield was indicted by a grand jury on 4 counts of criminal sexual contact with a child under the age of 13, a New Mexico prosecutor announced on Friday. I'm reading this and I'm wondering what non-criminal sexual conduct or contact with a child under the age of 13 is. I think it's all criminal, at least in my opinion. If you're having sexual contact with a child under the age of 13, it's always criminal. I can pretty firmly say that's the truth. Right? I think it's always criminal if you're doing that. You know what I mean? Or really just like talking to a child in any significant way if you're not like related to them. Like even if you're their teacher, you probably shouldn't be texting a child in any way, shape, or form, especially if you're a man. Although the women are starting to catch up in the creep department. You know what I mean? A lot of women on that Epstein list. We got Ghislaine Maxwell. She was probably the real ringleader of the whole thing. Um, and obviously all those middle school teachers having sex with their 12-year-old students. That's the women are also catching up in that department. But yeah, just like you might not be able to go to jail, but I think socially you should be shunned if you're just having conversations with 14-year-olds constantly. Like if you're hanging out, you know what I mean, and there's just like if you're waiting in line or something, and there's no, not even that. There's really kind of no reason if you're a full-grown adult that you should be having a conversation with a child under the age of I'd say 18, um and especially under the age of 13. Like I can't think of any reason why I would talk to a child under the age of 13 for any sustained period of time, right? Like I think it's an instant indictment if you do. Or maybe not instant indictment, you know what I mean? I guess some kids do need role models or whatever, so this is someone to talk to, I guess. But still, it's odd. You know what I mean? You can be like, "Hey, bud, how you doing?" and give him a noogie or whatever. Um, like that's, I guess that's okay, but I just think it's odd. Is all. You know, it's odd. Maybe if you're in like a super niche community, right? Like there's a lot of super niche, like I don't know, Magic the Gathering. But if you play Magic the Gathering, I also instantly assume that you have some sort of weird sexual thing going on anyway. So, yeah, I think the ultimate conclusion I'm coming to is yeah, you can speak to a child, but talking to a child for any sustained period of time is odd. So, like, speak to them in the sense that you're an adult and they're a child and you're speaking to the child, but being like, yo, what's up, bro? like, like fist bumping a 14-year-old as an adult, unless you're like a defensive back coach at like a 4A Kansas high school. It's the only reason you should be fist bumping a child. Right? But anyway, so these allegations against Timothy Busfeld are tied to his work as a director on the set of the TV series The Cleaning Lady from 2022 to 2024. I'm going to Google what The Cleaning Lady is real quick, but I can almost guarantee you it's on the CW or CBS. And that there was probably a lot of needless CGI involved. Let me see if I'm right, dude. The Cleaning Lady. Let's Google this thing. I'm almost 100% sure I'm correct, dude. CW or CBS. Those have the real stinkers on them. What channel is it on? Oh no, it looks like I was wrong. It looks like it's some sort of like murder type of thing. Okay, let's see this. What fucking channel is it on? Just tell me. I need to know if I'm correct or not. I need to know. What channel? Fox. God. That was a real swing and a miss there. CW or CBS though. I'm still, if I see like another like dumb sounding TV show, I'm instantly going CBS and CW again. It could be Fox, it could be NBC. Those got a lot of real stinkers on them, but it's usually CBS or the CW. So anyway, Busfeld has denied the allegations initially filed in court by police, and a defense attorney on Friday said he would fight these charges at every stage. Bernilio Bernalillo County District Attorney Sam Bregman announced the indictment in a social media post. Busfeld has turned himself into authorities in January on related charges by police and was released from jail by a judge who found no pattern of criminal conduct or similar allegations involving children in Busfeld's past. The grand jury indictment allows the case against Busfeld to proceed toward possible trial without a preliminary courtroom hearing on evidence. Dude, look, I get that allegations can ruin a man's life and all that stuff, but when it comes to like stealing a TV, right? When it comes to something like that, you can ignore that in favor of focusing on things that face a bigger detriment to society, right? Yeah. Maybe he stole a TV, maybe he didn't. I don't really care. I have like a murder case to try. Like you can do that for that. You cannot do that for sexual allegation involving children, right? You can't be like, yeah, there's not enough evidence, so we're not even gonna go through with a trial. That's fucking insane, and it's just like one of the big problems that exists in our our judicial system, is that prosecutors and shit get promotions based off cases that they win. That's it. You win cases, you get promoted. I can't think of a better idea, but it's a pretty bad idea to do that, because it's like, then I'm just not going to take a case that I think I'm going to lose, right? That's what that creates. That's the pretty big fucking issue that creates, is letting guilty people back out on the street because there's not enough evidence, and you don't want to lose a case and, you know what I mean, have to wait another 2 years to get promoted or whatever. That's the issue that this creates, and that's like a big issue in Japan, is that prosecutors there won't take a case unless there's like a mountain of fucking evidence against the person who committed the crime. Like they won't even take it to trial or anything. What that means is Japan does have like a 99% conviction rate or whatever, but it also means that people who did commit pretty serious crimes are usually not prosecuted in any significant way until there's a mountain of evidence against them. So Larry Stein, you can guess what role Stein plays in this. He is an attorney. He's an attorney for Busfeld. Did not comment directly on the sexual contact charge in the indictment, but said the grand jury declined to endorse grooming charges sought by prosecutors. Prosecutors declined to comment on what accusations it brought before the grand jury. Stein said in a statement that a detention hearing already exposed fatal weaknesses in the state's evidence, gaps that no amount of charging decisions can cure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, this is a pretty hard thing to prove, right? To prove that a child was molested, because it's kind of your word against his. But like my whole thing about all that, and my whole thing about like the death penalty even, is, yeah, some people are going to get caught up in it, dude. It is what it is, right? You cannot have a perfect system. You cannot let the perfect be the enemy of the good. You look at Hollywood and, you know what I mean, TV and movies as a whole, and there is a pretty significant and evident history of child sexual exploitation, and really just child exploitation as a whole. So you kind of got to be like, yeah, we're just gonna. That's kind of where you need fascism a little bit. I know that everyone shits on fascism and all that stuff. You need a dash of it. You need a dash of it to be like, yeah, maybe he's guilty, maybe he's not. We're just gonna kill him anyway. All right, that's kind of where you need fascism. Just a touch, just a sprinkle of it. Look, I get it, Antifa. Go put up a roadblock or whatever, right? Go do that. It's always funny whenever they do that. But look, hey, like I said, bygones be bygones. Let's focus on the baby eating pedophiles. But yeah, you can be Antifa or whatever, but just we need a little little sprinkle of it. You know what I mean? We need a little sprinkle of fascism in there to be like, look, dude, I don't know, but we gotta kill anyone who we even think is a pedophile, right? We just gotta do that, all right? It's look, I get it. Your uncle died, and turns out it was a lie the whole time. Wah. We just gotta kill the guy. Okay, we put a bullet in his head. You know, you need just a touch of that. You can't take it too far. You take it too far, you end up as like the Soviet Union or whatever. There's a lot of you know what I mean, social disdain for the government, and an imminent collapse. You can't take the fascism too far. You just need a touch of it. You just need a little It's like a bay leaf. All right, that's what fascism should be like. It should be like a bay leaf. Like, I don't really know exactly what it does, but I know I need a little bit of it. Okay, I need a touch of it in there to add a little. You know, you ever eaten soup without a bay leaf? Not as good. I don't know why. Just isn't. That's what fascism is. Fascism is a bay leaf. We need it. We need just a touch. Hey, just give me a little touch of fascism. No big deal. Just a little bit, dude. Just hang one innocent man. Just a few public executions. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking for the world here. I'm not saying you have to agree with me on everything and that we all have to, do whatever we do under fascism. I'm not saying all that. I'm just saying we're going to kill a few innocent people. And that's just part of the whole deal. Right? You just need a touch of it. Just a touch. So yeah, fascism is good is the ultimate conclusion we come to with that one. And this is also from AP News. I just picked AP News because I know they won't try to make me subscribe to their thing. And this is a deputy chief of Russia's military intelligence service is shot and wounded in Moscow. So a deputy chief of Russia's military intelligence agency was shot and wounded in Moscow on Friday in an attack that follows a series of assassinations of senior military officers that Russia has blamed on Ukraine. God, the Putin must be looking at like this is the real downfall of Russia right here. That's what this is. It's the real downfall of, you know what I mean, Russia as we know it in the modern world. Because, 10 years ago, this guy would have been found dead with 30 bullet holes in him. And the Russian, you know what I mean, whatever their equivalent of the FBI is, would have been like, it was a suicide. This guy would have been shot 10 times in the head and they would have ruled it a suicide. Now they can't even kill the guy. The KGB can't even kill the guy anymore. The KGB is slipping, dude. Putin needs to withdraw from Ukraine, not because it's immoral or whatever. That's a whole other can of worms. He needs to withdraw from Ukraine because he's slacking. And we can see he's slacking. Because like I said, dude, OG Putin would not have allowed this to happen. OG Putin would have killed the guy who failed to kill this guy. And now I bet that guy's going to walk free. Very disappointing behavior from Russia. That's why I'm disappointed in this. It's the failure of it. So Lieutenant General Vladimir Alexeyev was hospitalized after being shot several times by an unidentified assailant at an apartment building in northwestern Moscow. Investigative committee spokesperson Svetlana Petrenko said in a statement. She didn't say who could be behind the attack on the 64-year-old who has served as the first deputy head of Russia's military intelligence agency known as the GRU since 2011. Yeah. It's just sad to see this, dude. It's just so sad to see Putin fall. Putin used to throw you in jail for whatever. He used to kill whoever and whenever he wanted to. Russia was getting a fair amount of glaze in the Russian invasion tutorial that I gave, but this is not the spirit of the Russians, dude. Hate to see this. And then this is our final article of the day, and this is from Positively Osceola. And I get Osceola, it's a city in Missouri that's famous for making cheese, or it's famous, I wouldn't even say in the state of Missouri, it's famous regionally in Missouri for making cheese, but it's also a city in Florida. And this is 51-year-old man arrested after alleged multiple exposure incidents at Kissimmee Resort, January 28th, 2026. So, an Oviedo man has been arrested following multiple reports. Yeah, at a Kissimmee resort community, including one incident in which witnesses say he performed a sexual act with a vacuum cleaner outside a residence. I want to talk to this guy. And the reason I want to talk to this guy is because all the men listening to this out there, all the men listening to this, we're all thinking the same thing. We've all thought the same thing. Will it? I mean, it sucks, right? So I mean, that makes sense. It should work like that, right? That's why I want to talk to this guy. Obviously, kill this guy too, because this whole thing, the Kissimmee resorts or whatever it is, it's like one of those shitty places that people go when they can't afford a hotel at Disney World, right? There's a bunch of kids around. He definitely knew that. But this is definitely the act of a local Florida man. You know what I mean? This isn't some visitor. The visitors aren't this cocky. The local Florida people are. Not saying that people from Florida are pedophiles, although probably a higher chance, if I had to guess, of being a pedophile if you're from Florida. But anyway, we're at an hour. So I hope everyone listening has a good day, a good week, a good year, a good life. There should be a regular episode this week. It probably won't be that good because I'm going to have to wake up early to record it, but it's a pretty fun topic. So, and I'm going to be reading a story. It's a shorter story than the Aleph, so hopefully I won't stumble through it as much, and I think the words are a lot simpler. The Aleph was I bit off more than I could chew with that one. But regardless, hope everyone listening has a good day, a good week, a good year, a good life. Yeah. All right. Ping.